If you have no idea what the VIX is, this is a perfect video for you. We're going to be explaining what this is and what impact it has on the stock market. But if this is your first time here, my name's Nick. Welcome to Ways to Wealth. Before we get into the video, I'd like to ask you a huge favor. If you learn something new or you get some value out of the video, hit that like button for me. It would definitely help me out. And if you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button, turning that notification bell on. I would definitely appreciate that. With no further ado, let's break down what VIX is, what impact it has, and what important piece of news, a big bet that we saw, got placed on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the video. But with that being said, let's hop into the computer. What is VIX? VIX is the symbol for the Chicago Board Options Exchange Volatility Index. It is also known as the fear gauge. So fear, volatility, it definitely lets you know when there's a little bit of uncertainty or stocks are going down. That's basically it in a nutshell. But let's get some more technical terms in here. As we said, the indicator is known as the fear gauge because it reflects investors' best predictions of near-term volatility or risk. In general, VIX starts to rise during times of financial stress and lessens as investors become complacent. It's the market's best prediction of near-term market volatility. We can also see implied volatility is the expected volatility of the underlying, in this case, a wide range of options on the S&P 500. So what is happening with call options, put options, the VIX is taking into place. The more options that are placed, the more increased volatility, and puts are usually put into the portfolio as a protection to the downside. You can kind of limit your risk if you put options into your portfolio. If you're not familiar with call options, you expect the stock to go up. With put options, you expect it to go down. The VIX in general takes both of these call and puts into place, so we can't really tell which way the market's going to be going. But when we do see a higher number of VIX, this normally means higher volatility. Investors are skeptical of where the stock market's going to go in the future. We can also see that the VIX and the stock market behavior, while other factors are at work, in most cases, a high VIX reflects an increased fear, and low VIX suggests complacency. So what I've done is I've looked at the past 25 years, of the VIX and the S&P 500, and we can see it on this chart. Light blue is the S&P 500. The dark blue line is the VIX, like I mentioned, going back all the way to 1996. I think it's capturing a little bit more than that. But if we follow the VIX, which is obviously the key denominator in this equation right now, we see when it's spiking, traditionally that's falling with a lower S&P. So as the VIX goes up, traditionally the S&P goes down. We see another spike here in 2002. We're also seeing, that major dip that happens in the S&P, followed all the way around. Again in 0809, after the crash, we see a huge spike in VIX. It gets all the way up to about, I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going to take, it's probably around, 60 here. And you see the massive drop in the S&P, obviously, after the financial crisis. 2011, we see the same thing with the VIX spiking. Kind of every time the VIX spikes, it goes down. So obviously, the last one we saw was recently, and, it dipped all the way to March 23rd. And now it's dropped to 16. So it's the lowest point that we've seen since February of last year. Obviously, February 2020. So it's not really like a long time ago, but it's basically stating that the market is calming down. And that brings me into this article that I found called "The Giant VIX Options Trade Bet That the Stock Market Calm Won't Last." So we see in this chart here that it peaked in March. This is the VIX peaking probably around when the stock market is bottoming. It was all the way up to 80. I don't think it had ever got to that height before, but obviously over these past couple months, a year has passed, and it has definitely calmed down to, like we said, that part that we haven't seen since February. And on Thursday, somebody shook up the option screens, and they made a wager that the VIX index will rise towards 40 and won't be lower than 25. So they've definitely hedged themselves, but they've hedged themselves in the fact that the VIX will rise from 16 up to 25, but it'll be less than 40. They placed 200,000 call contracts on there, and I believe the total amount that they placed in options was $40 million. So a $40 million bet, and I believe that it is going until July. That's when they've had the expiry date on the option. So they think typically the stock market is sell in May and go away, but they think that with the potential of this new Biden tax plan coming in, companies potentially making less money, which we talked a little bit in last week's video. So if you're interested to see how the Biden tax plan will affect companies' earnings and companies' research and development and companies' wages, I'll throw that link above. Check that out. Let me know what you think about that. But yeah, moving on to here, this is definitely a big bet. Obviously, you know, having the VIX spike up again means that there could be further downside. So it's something to watch if you're not watching before. The VIX is kind of a tool that's used to see if there's volatility brewing underlying. But yeah, that's kind of something that I've used and kind of worked to see if I can add this into the portfolio as a hedge. Something where I've done like 80% in an S&P 500 index with 20% in VIX. It definitely involves a lot of hand touching, because you would have to set rules to say once VIX gets to this amount, that's when you would asset allocate, meaning that, you know, if the VIX goes from 20 to 40% of your portfolio, that's when you would start switching it back. Testing hasn't really gone all the best, but it's something that we should be using as investors to give us the underlying sentiment of what's going on in the market. So I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I have for you on that. Let me know down below what you think of the VIX. Is it something that you use today? And again, if you made it this far, don't forget, smash that like button. I definitely appreciate that. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, great week on the markets. Happy trading.